The waiting room on Zoom. All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. This is very, very special what we have got planned for you over these next couple of days. Do me a massive, massive favor. When you can hear us and when you can see us, just drop a little hi in the chat. If you're in the Zoom, say hi. Please do not be shy. If you are watching this from all of the other channels that we are streaming from now, YouTube, where else? Facebook, LinkedIn, even X. We are there. We are streaming. We are around the world. Thank you very much. Whoever said hi in the Zoom, that means we are live. All right. So these next 3 days, this AI bootcamp with what we are doing, I wanted to bring to you all actionable tips that you can be doing right now. And there's loads of people talking about AI. There has been for the last 2 years now. And I feel like we've got to that point in time with AI where it's about to plateau a little bit. It's about to level out. So those of you that are maybe feeling that you're a little bit left behind, this is the perfect time to get started. I don't want to show you how to make cute images on ChatGPT that doesn't impact you in any way, shape, or form. I want to show you over these next 3 days how you can bring it into your business, into your hospitality business, and how you can actually make an impact today. And the cool thing is about all of these things that we're going to show you over the next 3 days, these are tools and these are tactics that you can get going pretty much instantly. You don't have to wait. You don't have to, learn how to master this tool. You can pretty much get started. So that is the plan. That is the goal. It's going to be live 6 p.m. UK, 7 p.m. in Europe, 1 p.m. in Eastern time, 12 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. in Dubai, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's just 3 days. It's just 3 hours. I understand totally that you've got a lot going on. I know it's busy times, but if you can just put aside this hour to join in with me live, you and your business will be at a much better place for it. Now, if that sounds good, just give me a little hi in the chat or just tap those emoji buttons. Liam is tuning in from Norwich. Hi, Liam. Mel in South Africa and Emma in the UK. Laurel, I believe, in the US. Let me know where you're tuning in from, which is always good. And let's get started, well, shall we? So to my right is somebody that I've had the privilege of meeting quite a few times now. We spent a couple of days in a big house in Liverpool together where I got to find out much more about this young chap. And then he left us to go off to to an award show in London where he won the Rising Star of 2025 in the short-term rental industry, which is phenomenal. A very, very clever chap. And he has a tool that he has founded with his team that is helping everybody rank higher on the OTAs. And we're going to dig into why that's important. We're going to dig into why he created this tool and everything else in between. But Bart, before we crack on, just give us a little breakdown of the tool that you created, your sort of background in getting into property management, etc., and sort of where are you right now with the business in September, October 2025, please?
Absolutely. First of all, Mark, thank you very much for having me here on today. It's an absolute pleasure. Always when we shared the stage, it was always firework. I remember the conference back, the short stay was an amazing one as well. And maybe for the audience as well, to introduce myself. So my name is Bart-Jan. I'm from Belgium, which is a very hard Flemish name to pronounce. So if you ever come across me, if you ever meet me, Bart is perfectly fine and is way easier than saying my Flemish name. So I'm 25. I'm the founder of Otamiser. Otamiser is a company that specializes in OTA performance for hotels, short-term rentals, hosts, property managers, and so on. We started actually 3 years ago out of the purpose that, out of necessity actually. My dad, he is an entrepreneur and he jumps to projects, he jumps to new opportunities, and he had the unique opportunity of managing a bed and breakfast in the city center of Bruges, where my hometown is, so picturesque city in Belgium. And he said, look, I will be honest, I have no clue how to manage a bed and breakfast. I have no prior experience in tourism. I have no clue. I can run a business, but I have no clue about this. I had no prior experience as well. I just graduated from my master's in finance at the university in Ghent, so in Belgium. And he said, look, While I will figure out how hospitality works, can you please figure out how to make money with this bed and breakfast? You're good with numbers, so you will probably figure it out. Go and find something. Um, so this is where I got engaged in everything being revenue management. How do you make revenue? Just the core of revenue management, not dynamic pricing, not upsells, just how does a property make revenue? So then I got into the sub elements: dynamic pricing, upsells, early check-in, late checkouts, lower commissions on OTA, higher commissions. So I got to know everything. I used hotel revenue management solutions. I used short-term rental revenue management solutions. I used it all. We quickly got to a quite okay level of revenue, but I experienced there was a plateau. There was a ceiling. We couldn't get any higher. Like every percentage we had to do was marginal compared to all the hard work we had to take in. And then this is where I got a friend of mine involved, which was an AI geek before ChatGPT ever was front page on the BBC. It was, he was an AI geek before it was a mainstream thing.
Mm.
And we dove into the concept of, okay, why are some days can we ask crazy rates and it sells, and why on some days not? And why are we on some days where the market is absolutely not full? Why are we full and why not? And this is where we came across our OTA performance. We managed, or we saw in the data, that on some days our OTAs, and in Belgium it was heavily reliant on Booking.com. On some days our positioning on Booking.com was just very, very good, and on some days it wasn't. So this is where we started debugging, like, why is Booking.com putting us at a certain place in day one and in day two on place 10? And then we noticed the concept of ranking search results. We thought, let's just contact Booking.com and ask them to put us on page one. They said, no, you cannot do that. That's just impossible. And then they started the whole talk about, join Genius, go give more commission to us. But we didn't want to do it because we didn't want to be just a pay to win. We wanted to have something more substantial. So this is where we started to look in what really drives ranking or your positioning in search results. So we found options where we could manipulate or optimize ourselves within those searches. And from some manual labor, there came a company. From a company, there came two tools: one for short-term rentals, which is called AutoRank, which will be covered today, and one is the company called Otamiser, which serves hotels and short-term rentals. So from a real life, or something I have witnessed with the property of my dad, came a company. And now 3 years into the company, we are 40 something people, and we're active in over 12 countries worldwide. And I'm having the pleasure of sharing the stage with Mark. So what
Yeah.
else do you
Awesome story. We love it. And it's a tool that is growing all the time. So if you want to go find out more about the tool, obviously we'll give you more links and stuff along the way. It's AutoRank. Is it autorank.com? Like what's the best domain to go to?
AutoRank.com. Plain and easy.
AutoRank.com. So obviously, like I wanted to do this session because AI is massively going to shape how these search engines, including the OTAs, appear. And the cool thing about what I've heard you talk about is how hosts can A, do it themselves, but also B, tap into technology and tools. Before we get on though, obviously, everything Boostly related is all about this good old thing called direct bookings. And obviously the goal is to get everybody to be direct bookings as much as possible. When we talk about AutoRank and we talk about direct bookings, how do you bridge it when a host comes to you or a potential customer comes to you and goes, "Bart, I love your tool, I love the idea of it, but I want to get more direct bookings." How do you sort of combat that turnaround when someone says that to you, and why is it important?
That's a very good question. I always reply, it's not or. It's not or OTAs or direct bookings. It's always and. An OTA is ideal for capturing your first guest. In an OTA, you have a very predictable, acquisition cost of your guest. It's very predictable. But what we see is properties that engage in a good OTA performance also see the impact of direct bookings increasing. It's a stat, and it's we will cover it later as well. 65% of all people who are booking direct have come across your OTA listing at one step during their booking journey. The other stats say, for example, 4 in 10 people who actually booked your property go to an OTA to find information. So it's not an it's not this or that, it's always and how can you combine those. Of course, direct has a lower, in the majority of the cases, has lower acquisition costs, but it's also harder in some cases. But if you can combine those, we have seen wonderful use cases where people did an optimal mix and they're benefiting from both parties.
Well, let's kick on then. So obviously we've got a lot of people here who are thinking, right, I want to give this a go myself. So we're gonna share screens at some point, and let me know when I need to flip this button so we can share the screen. But the question that I wanted to tick into first, and this is probably relevant to all the people that are watching, whether it's live with us now or on the replay. When people try and rank or boost their listing on Airbnb, Booking.com, Verbo manually, what's the biggest mistake that you see that hosts are making from your point of view?
I will have a lot of people who will hate me for this, but one of the biggest mistakes I see is going to YouTube, searching how can I rank high on Airbnb, and following someone who claims they can do it. Because what works in one market never works in a second. And we will get into how the algorithm is computed, how the Paris search results are computed is completely different than Myrtle Beach or than Manchester. It's a different type of guest, and Airbnb adapts its search results to the guests. So there are no quick fixes, unfortunately. There is no such thing as do this and you will rank high. It's a combination. It's a strategy to rank high. It's not a quick fix. So what I often have is discussions with starting property manager, with listing owners who say, look, I have read I have to do this, and then I will be top of the searches. And then we look at the data, and they are not. Of course, some of the tips can help, but there is no one fits all solution. Just as dynamic pricing, there is no one fits all solution.
That's massive. So if anybody here has ever gone onto YouTube and found somebody with a lovely smile, an American accent, who's talking about how to rank higher, it is literally only applicable to potentially their city or town where they are based. It doesn't mean that it spreads to other states in the US, never mind across the pond. Is that right? It really does depend on guest and data and location specific.
Exactly, and everything happening in your market. Maybe you're in a very dense region where Booking.com is taking 60% of all bookings. Then your Airbnb algorithm is computed way different because you're not sending the same availability. So all those different factors need to be taken into.
Okay, so this is something that I want to throw open to the chat. And if you have joined us in the Zoom room, you get exclusive chance to ask questions to our experts. So if a question ever comes up between now and the next 30 minutes, please drop it in and I will ask Bart the questions as we go. Okay, so let's have a little look at this. Are you sharing your screen? Let me flip this over. And what I want for you to do is to answer this question. So when you get a new client and you're analyzing a brand new listing, what are the first sort of things that you should be looking for? And hopefully now everybody can see the screen. So, Bart, yeah, just let us know, how do we tackle this?
Yes. Can everyone see the screen? Maybe if someone can give a thumbs up, then we can be ready to go. And I cannot see the chat. So
yeah, we're good. There's thumbs up everywhere. I'm going to monitor the chat. So get these questions coming in. Give us those thumbs up. Brilliant.
Great. So following to what I was sharing earlier, it's when it comes to OTA performance and just revenue performance, is visibility is everything. Just getting people seeing your listing. It's about getting demand, and your listing can be in a peak demand area, but if your listing is not seen by someone, you're not getting booked. You can compare it to an e-commerce store. You can have the best prices, best product, but if your listing is not, or if your e-commerce store is not being seen by potential guests, you're not getting booked, you're not getting any reservations, you're not getting any purchases. Same goes with it with an Airbnb listing or just with a short-term rental. And an interesting stat on that is on the ODA, 75% of all positive click behavior, so click behavior that indicates or will result in a booking, go to the first 15 listings. And that's only increasing year over year. If you look at different generations, I'm a Gen Zer. Gen Z is even more shorter there. They don't go to page 2 anymore. So it's increasing and increasing the importance of that ranking. But let's, before we start and before I give you a lot of complicated stuff and then we will see where that leads, let's just start with guest journey. How is a guest journey, or how does a guest on Airbnb now book? How is it really going? And let me just put it maybe full screen so it's more visible for everyone.
Yeah.
So a guest, when they go to Airbnb, and this is a very simplified version, they enter a search. For example, I want to go to Manchester to watch the Derby. I want to go to New York and stay there 3 days with two persons. They enter a search, enter their query, enter their filters. Then they click on certain things. So they enter the filters, then they click. This is from the moment they see the listing. This is the listing. In the example, they click on the listing. From the moment they have seen a listing, and this is a very simplified version, we will get to a more comprehensive one in a bit. They have a couple of options. They can contact the host, they can send a request to book, or they can book. This is just, of course, they can also not book, but this is very simplified. From the moment they book, that's okay. Everyone's happy, host happy, guest is happy. From the moment they send a booking request, that gets rejected, okay. This can also happen. From the moment they contact and they get a response or they don't get a response, everything can happen. But what I want to show to you here is from the moment a guest engages with your listing, a lot of different things happen. A lot of different data is gathered. A lot of different data is injected. From the moment he searched and your listing is showing up and he clicked and he indicates a booking, that's gold. That's what you want. You want to have a very short cycle time. You want to have someone going to your listing, clicking, booking, and being happy, and preferably also leaving a good review score. But unfortunately, not every guest is like this. To complete my story, let's first look at the following example. So this is another guest. The average user does more than 12 searches all on multiple days before they actually book a listing. And that depends, of course, if they're booking a big home, small apartment, big apartment, and so on. But let's just look at averages here. So on the first search, they see 5 listings. Okay, they like it, they like some of them, but let's do a second one. On the second one, they have certain filters, and they see here the second one is also popping up. Airbnb predicts, okay, this one will be there for you. Then they narrow it down, and then ultimately they book a listing. This listing is chosen over 5 different searches. So meaning over that 5 different searches, they rejected multiple others and they chose this one and they booked it, which is golden. Let's now look at this example. This is a mobile experience of Airbnb. So the guest searches something. They see a listing, they click it. Second search is they click a listing, see a listing, click another one. Third one is they click a listing, they went here to fulfill a booking request, it got rejected, they click one, and they see another one. So you see all those little things is gathering data for Airbnb. And this solves one of Airbnb's biggest problem they had when launching their search results. They wanted to have hyper-personalized search results, but of course, they couldn't do a hyper-personalized search result because the majority of Airbnb users only makes one booking a year, or when they make more bookings a year, they are not the same traveler type. One time they do it for business, the other time they do it with their family, the other time with their mistress, or whatever they can do to make a booking. So their traveler type is never the same. So Airbnb thought, okay, let's not use as an output variable of as a target variable. Let's not use bookings, but that's all the tiny behaviors they do behind of that. You can see it on the screen. So all those little instances, all those little behaviors is something which is called in the algorithmic world of Airbnb utility. just a quick disclaimer, I will give you one more complicated slide after this, and then we will move to practical tips. Those utility is what want to be maximized, and you want to have the highest potential utility usage use case for your guests. So every little booking behaviors, that booking intent, can yield to a maximized utility, because Airbnb is all about maximizing that utility. The guests just gathers data, clicking on the listing, not clicking on the listing, scrolling through pictures, and so on.
So here's a question for the audience who are watching in with Zoom. Did you, and give me a simple yes or no, there's no right or wrong answer on this, did you realize that this algorithm was as complex as this on airbnbbooking.com? This is why, like Bart was saying, there's no like one easy fix. You know what I mean? If you're going to do this manually. So yeah, but there's a lot of people saying no. They didn't have a clue it was this complicated.
I can imagine. And it is complicated. There is no one fits all solution. And my aim for today is to help you guys understand why it is like this, why they do it. And to come back to the slides, I was talking about that utility. So Airbnb is all about maximizing that utility for a guest when they see a listing. In the function, in the output they are gathering, there is listing features, guest features, also the query features. Maybe they're coming with 2 childs, 3 childs, and so on, but also something called rejection probability. And again, this will be the most difficult slide of today, and then we will move to something more practical. But this is real insight on how the algorithm of Airbnb is made. And please drop it in the chat if I'm talking nonsense, or if you or if you think, okay, let's skip this. But it's important for you to understand that the output of a search ranking algorithm is the positioning you have. That positioning is constituted or is made out of 2 main models of Airbnb. One model is called the base model. Base model, very simple, giving a guest the best probability of staying with a good property. With a property that will, result in a good review score. They want to just have the best property for the best guests, so they get the highest review score. But at the other side, and this is where Airbnb is so unique in the OTA landscape, is something which is called the Twiddler module. I have no idea who invented the Twiddler module, but it's named like this in the Airbnb code. Twiddler model is decreasing the probability of linking a host or connecting a host with a property that will not result in good review scores or in a positive stay. So it's important. Why is this important? Because this highlights all the good things about listings. So every time you have positive booking behavior, this accelerates you. But every bad review, and some of the people here in the audience will have seen this can crush your listing. Because one bad review sends a very strong signal to Airbnb, something might be wrong here. So this is that Twiddler module coming into play that doesn't connect your listing with other guests anymore, because it can yield for them in code way to bad reviews. If I just summarize it, Airbnb's has a hybrid of when they come up with search rankings with long-term signals and short-term signals for them to compute their search rankings. Long-term signal is, okay, what's the booking history of a guest, but also the listing. How many bookings did they have? How many reviews did they have? How many positive, but also the guest, have they left a lot of reviews, a lot of bad reviews? But also what's, for example, for the guest, was their search trend over the last months? Always when they search for something with a swimming pool, did they actually book it? If the answer is no, then they are just dreaming and not booking something with a swimming pool. But also short term, for a guest, what are the recent searches? For which days? Have they maybe in another tab opened some flight and they already booked it? Okay, that does mean he's definitely going. How many clicks are they doing during a session? Are those clicks intended to book, or is it just, to scroll down? It has to be in some case for more than 30 seconds. So all those different actions a guest make contribute to where your listing is placed in those search rankings.
I've just got a super quick question, and this is something that has always fascinated me. I see on these Facebook groups all the time where there's posts that come up saying waitlist army. And what they do is when a listing goes live, they ask everybody in the Facebook group to save it as a waitlist. So that little plus, that little heart button in the top right hand corner. So basically they get a lot of people to save it to a waitlist at once. You know the algorithm probably more than anybody else I've ever spoken to. Does that actually boost the algorithms? Is a lot of people save it as a wish list or a wait list on Airbnb, or is that just engagement farming on these Facebook groups? In your opinion,
It's engagement farm on the Facebook groups.
okay.
But it does have an indirect effect. Maybe where the wish list thing originated from in the version of Airbnb's algorithm 5 to 6 years ago, it did have an impact. Because again, Airbnb had its issue that they couldn't collect other data. They couldn't collect those micro behaviors a guest said, but over the last 5 to 6 years, Airbnb's data team, Airbnb's algorithm, Airbnb's data capacities have evolved so much that they don't put weights on it. But why those Facebook engagement things are still going is when someone goes to the listing, they click on the link, they add it as a wish list, you get an extra view. Those views then are, perceived increase because of the wish list, but it's because people click on it and Airbnb registers a view. So
We've got the answer. We've got the answer. So if you've ever been asked in a Facebook group or you ever thought it was a good idea, don't worry about it. Here's another question that's something that has always been on my mind, and Robert has just timed it perfectly in the Zoom chat. Can you just quickly talk about the separation between superhost and guest favorite, and what does it actually mean to the algorithms from where you can see from your viewpoint of looking at this algorithm more than most?
Yep. For that, it's also important to understand the history there. So Superhost, of course, was there for way longer than guest favorite. So a couple of years ago, when you were Superhost, your listing was going to get, you were fine. Then guest favorite was introduced, and they took over that completely. When we look at the ranking, the majority of those are guest favorite, depending on the market, depending on the searches again. But guest favorite is always winning over superhost. Superhost has a higher tendency of getting your listing in guest favorite, but guest favorite is today the new gold on Airbnb.
Okay, so you want to be a guest favorite. So thank you very much for this. I've got some other questions, but it's not directly related. So let's jump back into the slides and let's go in the fun stuff. So what's this next slide we're looking at?
Yep. So just also for everyone to quickly summarize, how is that algorithm now computed in human language? 4 key elements: your content, your reviews, your listing composition, being what is in your listing, do you have a pool, don't you have a pool, and your price. 4 key elements. Today, I will discuss with you the listing optimization flywheel, what we see happen so much in the market, and then 5 unique tips I prepared for today for anyone to walk home with and to hopefully implement in their listings. So what happens a lot when we look at the market? So hosts, property manager, owners, they set up a listing, they think of a beautiful description they want to make, and they never update it again. Their listing gets off, it's okay, the first months they get good bookings, then conversion rates start to drop because their listing is not in demand anymore. Their listing is not tuned into what does the guest of today want to read. Their listing is not tuned into what the guest actually converts on. So what happens? Conversion rate drops, ranking drops. They have a lower probability of receiving bookings because ranking is probability of receiving a booking. What happens then is a revenue manager or a revenue management software sees, okay, there is no pickup, occupancy is lower, let's lower the price. What happens? Ranking is impacted by average price or by your price. So your average price compared to your price of today. So your decrease of price will get you a spike in Airbnb rankings, which will suddenly lead to a lot of bookings, and then everyone will praise the revenue manager. Oh, the guy did a really good job, or the person did a really amazing job. What happens then, what we see a lot, is you get overpaid. You get too many bookings in a too short time frame, which is something you want to avoid at all costs. Leading too many bookings, you don't send any rates and availability anymore to Airbnb, leading to, again, a lower average rank, lower booking probability for the upcoming period, and so goes the flywheel further. And again, a price decrease, and this is what we see happening a lot in the market. But now that I have given you guys all the theory, let's get to how you can actually make a difference. A main one would be, and this is, I just make quick tips for people who are not engaged in this on a daily level. Adapt your listing to the search trends. Go to your local area. Go to, if you're from Manchester, go and look, why are some properties ranked higher than Manchester? Click on 10 of them. Look at what are the similarities. Maybe they're using bullet points. Maybe they have beautiful blue pictures on the first. Look at it. That's a very important nuance to know, how you compute your description, how you compute your title, how you compute your summary. But also think of your guests. Let's say you're in a you're in a ski area. Then in the winter, when people are starting to book for the winter, they don't want to see that ski resort or that ski area in summer pictures. So adapt your listing at least to the different seasons, because every season has different amount of guests, has a different type of guest, has different guest behavior. So if you have time, please, at least 4 times a year, change your listings to what's happening in the different season. It could be just, changing the title to perfect winter retreat, or all those little things. When people who are booking for something in the winter, they can click on you, because guests, they book for their trip they want to go to. And
So here's a question. Obviously now we're coming into the winter. We're sort of thinking about November, December. When should a host be looking to change their listings? I got a feeling you're going to say depends on the lead time and it depends on location, but is there like a rule of thumb that you sort of look to, if it's like, right now is the time to be thinking of November, December, or is how do you sort of break that down?
I always say 1 to 1.5 times your average lead time in the market. If everyone's booking 20 days prior, then do it 30 days prior. If everyone's booking 10 days prior, then do it 15 days prior. Then you want to capture the majority of the curve of guests who are booking.
Here's a good question for the Zoom. What is your current lead time on average for all of your listings? Don't just think of one, think of all. What's like your current lead time? So that's from the point of booking to the point of arrival. What is your average? Pop it in the Zoom chat. Let's see who is on it with their numbers. Lewis just had a very quick question. What is RNA? You mentioned RNA on the other slide. What's that in simple terms, please?
That's rates and availability. So Airbnb favors listings who send them enough up-to-date rates and availability. That's also why, for example, having a dynamic pricing software can lead to a better Airbnb performance, or just a better performance in search rankings, because you send them more updates. You send more, changing price, so you send more updates. Availability stands there. You want to give Airbnb something to sell. If you only give them one night a month, in an extreme example, to sell, they will not do a lot of effort to sell you. If you give them 30 days a month to sell you, then they know, okay, we have 30 days of availability here to sell this property, so we can also make 30 days worth of money on this property. Of course, in a lot of markets where Booking.com is very dominant, or VRBO is also there, it's a bit different, but it's important to always, have it up to date as possible, but also there. And this is a tip that is not included in the slides, but get your property open as far as possible. If you can get it open 24 months in advance, please do, because that is availability that you send to them. You give them 24 months of dates to sell your property.
And what's crazy is I used to give the advice before seeing slides like this that you should be changing your listing, for 2 seasons, your spring, your summer, your fall, and your winter. But what's apparent now is you've got to be doing this a lot more with fall, winter, spring, summer. And it's not just your pictures, it's your title, it's your description, it's the thing that they see as they're reading your listing. So, the good news is that, well, the pain is you're going to have to do it. The good news is that, if you do it and you bank it, store it in a Google Doc or whatever, you can just rinse and repeat every year. But it's very, very important to do. And also as well, what's the data showing? For example, if somebody's got a property in Palm Springs and, once a year or twice a year, you've got Coachella that comes in, is it worthwhile to put big events, big festival, big things that are happening in your title, in your description, so you get that Google SEO benefit, or does it not really matter?
Absolutely. It's an experiment. So I'm from Belgium, and we have this festival called Tomorrowland, which attracts a huge amount of worldwide visitors every year. And we see from the moment that ticket sales of Tomorrowland and the ticket prices are released, the amount of traffic that is coming to Airbnb then to book a property is amazing. But we did an experiment that if we include property X close to Tomorrowland or close to the venue, that they always overachieve in revenue than others. So it's you get the additional Google SEO, but also again people are getting lazy. Sometimes they search doesn't start on Airbnb, but on Google they search Tomorrowland Airbnb, Coachella Airbnb, and then they will go and then they will have a predefined search already, and then this is where it will start. So it's also getting in tune with your events happening in your season.
I wonder as well on Airbnb search, I wonder how long it will take for where the search as we know it is just taken out, and it'll just be like a search bar when you rock up on it, and it'll just be find me a place near Tomorrowland for 4 people on these dates. You know what I mean? So it's like you won't have to put in your departure, your arrival.
I reckon they are testing with that. I'm not sure, but I agree with you. That's potentially the future.
Oof, there we go. There we go. Who knows? This may be an exclusive. We can come back to it in all these years' times and just say we called it on this live. Okay, so this is really good. For those of you that are wanting a copy of these slides, we'll let you know later how to get hold of them. I'm also taking screenshots and uploading them into our WhatsApp group chat that you should all be a part of. So this is really quality stuff, Bart. Thank you very much. Can we all just show Bart some love in the chat? Just say thanks, Bart. Maybe comment on how Club Brugge is such a good soccer team. So you can do that in the chat as well if you like. And as you can see, he is in Belgium and the sun is going down. So appreciate him for doing this. So they're all saying thank you in the chat, which is fantastic. Okay, next slide, please.
Yes, the next slide. So everyone is always telling, make sure your first pictures are okay. And this is not really a tip, but more of a why. This is actually how Airbnb analyzes your first picture. They have this algorithm which detects what is present on your first picture. So they have, okay, there's a 99% probability of you having a bed. There is an 85 probability of you having a window on those pictures. But why is it important? This fuels back to my story where I was telling that booking intent. If everyone clicks on a property with a pool, and the last 100 searches, everyone clicks on a property with a pool. If you have a pool that can be detected in your first picture, you will have also a higher likelihood of showing up. So for your first picture, please find a picture where a lot of amenities are, because those amenities will fuel you higher in search. Of course, you have to get a balance between a picture where the majority of your amenities are and a picture who is mobile optimized. But if you have a picture where, for example, you're near the beach and you can see from the balcony of your property the beach, and you have balcony beach already. If you can put there a chair, then you have chair, balcony, beach. So think of all those little amenities you can put there to maximize your search. Then this is also a myth, and it's not a myth because it's true, but the more flexible you are, the more higher you rank. This taps back to the story I was telling about rates and availability. The more available you are on Airbnb and the more searches you can pop up, the better you will be ranked. But I have debugged for you, and I'm not sure if you guys can see it.
Yeah, we can see this.
Perfect. I have looked at what is the real impact on a global scale. So these are global numbers. What is the real impact on occupancy, bookings, and revenue? And I see I made a typo there. When you, for example, are instant bookable, or you decrease your cancellation policy with one cohort, it's always positive. And I will focus on the revenue part. If you decrease your cancellation policy, it's from an 11% increase in revenue to a 10% increase in revenue on Airbnb. But the importance there is the reason why. Airbnb, when they compute your search rankings, they take an average of all your different rankings on different days. And if you send them more rankings, they have more data as well. And this will fuel into you having a higher revenue because you're getting a higher probability of getting booked.
My head hurts here. This is where you're making my head hurt, and you're so clever. And you know, I'm a dum dum. So when I'm looking at this, so that explain this to me like I'm a 10-year-old. What is the best way to get around this?
This is, flexible when we talk about flexible, this is of course cancellation policy, instant bookable, but also minimum length of stay. A lot of operators or hosts, they're restricted by 2 night minimum length of stay or 3 night minimum length of stay, just because operationally it's otherwise impossible. But a quick tip how you can actually be flexible and thus rank higher. For example, if you have an orphan night, yank your prices up with 1000%, no one will book it, but you will send more availability towards Airbnb. So if someone is looking for that one orphan night, they can find your property.
That's
So all
genius.
getting those availability to Airbnb.
That
And
is
the more
genius.
flexible you are, the more likely you are to comply with a lot of different criterias.
Okay, so here's a question in the chat. Is anybody doing this? Is anybody give me a simple yes or no? Who's doing this? Let me know in the chat. It'd be really interesting to sort of know because this is genius. And it's something you can easily do. Just before we go too far on, there was a really good question. Maria put in the chat. When it comes back to pictures, you're talking about getting as much amenities as possible in there. There's some people on their first picture, they go to Canva, they create a cool little collage and they put 4 pictures in there. Are we talking about doing something like that and just really filling up that first image with loads of mini pictures on Canva? Or do we have to use the raw one, just your best one with loads of things that you can fit in?
A good question. I will be honest, we have seen numerous results from those tests. In a lot of markets, it works absolutely wonderful. In other markets, we see that that is penalized because it's too confusing for a guest. They don't see it clearly because the amenities are too cropped. So they don't click on the listing where you just get lower ranking. So that's, I think, the main story I want to bring here today. There is no one fix all solution. It's about testing what works in your
Test.
market, and that will yield result. For example, what could be an answer if the collage doesn't work? Try maybe a 2 picture collage. Maybe that will work because then it's visible for guests. But you don't want those negative booking clicks.
Yeah, and I've always thought when you start dabbling with things like Canva and getting creative, I always wonder how Airbnb reacts to them because obviously people who get creative with Canva, they are more likely to add things in texting, you know? So along the lines of, hey, come and find us direct or, all the things you can do with Canva and getting creative. So it's interesting, but yeah, test it. Test it. Robert put, so I asked a question, who has done that tactic? And Robert said, yeah, he put it really high and he actually got a booking. So he whacked the price up, got somebody pay a large amount more, which is one of the benefits of doing it. All right, cool. All right, I'll let you crack on. How many more slides do we got? Because I want to be wary of your time here.
We have about 3 to 4 slides left, and then
Sweet.
it's all about question answering.
Love it. All right, we are doing really well here, cooking with gas.
Perfect. This is very important in a lot of different markets, and price penalties for different prices on other OTAs. It's a concept that arose from the hotels, actually. In the hotels, whenever you had a price on booking.com and Expedia was lower or higher, your ranking get penalized because they know, okay, a rational guest will compare those 2 listings on those different OTAs and they will book the cheapest one. Of course, guests are not rational, guests are very irrational, and a lot of the guests don't take on the whole booking journey. Fortunately, some of them do, but making sure that you don't get those penalized, you don't get penalized like this. So if you ever see this pop up on your Airbnb, make sure that Airbnb is lowest priced, or that, for example, booking.com or any other OTA is the value package is different. They get free breakfast or free check-in earlier, because they only scrape on price, not on total value package. So it's about, when choosing to do this or not to do this, what is your more dominant OTA? If the answer is Airbnb, make sure that Airbnb is always 1% lower than Booking.com. So you get favored as well, because Airbnb penalizes you. And not in all markets, they're still experimenting with this, but Airbnb penalizes you when Booking.com has a lower price, but they always also favor you if they know you give them the lowest price. So it's making sure that also for the OTAs, you game them. You give them exactly what they want. If they want to have the lower price than Booking.com, give it to them. And then I'm not sure, because I cannot see the chat, but a question I can imagine, it's about direct. Are they also scraping direct? On short-term rentals, I have not seen that case, where they are also scraping direct websites. Legislation in a lot of different countries worldwide is different. In Europe, it's not allowed. In the US and in other parts of the world, it's always a bit gray area. But I have not seen any instances where they actively do it. But to overcome that, I also have a tip for you guys. If you have if there is a brand guideline where you have to get parity between different OTAs, make sure that Airbnb just cannot find you. Make sure that your titles on Booking.com and Airbnb are different. In this instance, I showed the same first picture, but make sure you have different first picture on different OTAs, because those things will make it way harder for the robots of Airbnb, the scrapers of Airbnb, to match your listings, because that's the hard part why this isn't enrolled at a larger scale compared to hotels. It's very hard for a scraper to find a listing on Airbnb and match it directly to Booking.com. If you have the same title, it's very easy, but also game those scrapers. Make sure it's not easy for them.
Love that.
And then as a last tip of the day, and it's my slides and numbers are wrong, but this is actually tip 5, and this is where we started with. It's the billboard effect. So 65% of all direct bookings come from guests who saw it first on an OTA. These are hotel stats, but are very much in line with short-term rentals as well. It's making sure that, again, that discoverability. When someone finds you on Airbnb, make sure that they can easily, with one simple search, go to your direct website. Maybe always include it in your title and say, this is a listing by Mark. The brand is called Mark, so they go to Google and say listings by Mark, and they land on your website. So look at all those little tips and tricks to get your listings also seen by guests who can find you on an OTA. It could be something in your description. For example, please contact us for all your questions, and then you might do it. Or please, or you put a little watermark on your picture. So make sure that guests who want to book online, you give them all the options to book online.
Love it. That's obviously a tip that we love here at Boostly. Do we have any more little gems, or can we talk about AutoRank for a second in a little bit more detail?
We actually can. So maybe first for everyone, a bit elevator pitch, mindful of time, of AutoRank. So AutoRank is actually a solution that optimizes your Airbnb listings automatically. And know what I am seeing? It's actually really getting dark here in Belgium. I see myself lighting up here on video. But AutoRank is a tool we plug into your PMS, and we make sure that your listings are automatically optimized. So you don't have to think, okay, what keywords do I have to inject in my descriptions? What keywords do I have to inject in my title? When do I have to add local events? When do I have to add local attractions? But also, and this is what I'm showing here on the graph, is you don't want to oversell your listing. What we are doing is we are gathering the insights of your reviews and incorporating into your descriptions, your title, into your overall listing composition. Because when guests give you a bad review, it's because they expect something more. They had certain expectations when entering the listing or entering the unit, and when they left, their expected values were not met. The expected values were not met with the perceived values. So this is where we experimented and changing how you sell your listing into your description. And we found that this is, for example, in Aruba and in Orlando, a case where we found that when we change those review insights into the listing, into actually how the listing is composed, that the accuracy tab, part of the review tab on Airbnb, starts to increase because guests give you a higher score on accuracy. And then a last slide of the day, and then I will give you all my credentials so you can just ask me any question you want, is where is AutoRank really leading into? Of course, we're picking into views. So this is a case from a property manager back in the US, and they were struggling. So you're seeing here on the graph, the black line is the views his listing or their listing got. The dotted line is their competitors. And you saw they were struggling a bit. They were always a bit above the competition, always a bit below. But when we implemented, their views skyrocketed. Because their views skyrocketed, they got more eyeballs on their listings. When they have more eyeballs, they will get more bookings as well. So that's what we do. We make sure that you get more eyeballs and you don't have to think of those difficult optimization things I was telling you about. But those few also lead to higher ranking. But also make sure that your ranking is managed optimal, because you don't want to, you know, there is this belief that you always need to be ranked number one, but that's also not true. You need to be ranked optimal. And that's exactly what we're doing with AutoRank. And now I'm going to my last slide, Mark. Here it is. And now I give the floor back to you. So thank you guys, everyone. If you need to contact me, just drop me an email. I think if you scan it, you go to my LinkedIn.
Nice. So can we all just please give Bart a massive thank you in the Zoom chat? Tap that emoji button all the times. Quick question that is coming from Lewis, who has 40 odd properties. Does AutoRank, does it link in with pricing software? Does it link in and integrate with everything so it works smoothly? How does that sort of work on a sort of a back end level?
So right now we don't have a direct integration with pricing software just yet, but we do have a revenue management solution or service we also offer, where our revenue managers in-house link our data to systems like Price Labs, Wheelhouse, Beyond. So it's taken into account for your revenue strategies, because ranking is a predictor of revenue. And if we can include that, that's wonderful. Right now, we don't have a do-it-yourself module for that, but our revenue managers can do that.
I think the main thing that I want everybody to get across with this is that yes, you can do it yourself, but when you are doing so many things within your business and your life, and there's all those plates that are spinning, if you can just hand it over to a tool, and if you've got the budget to do so, 100%, you should be digging into it. And this is where AutoRank has come in, and it's worked for a lot of people. And yeah, it does. It works everywhere, which is massive. And there's so many things that you just got to keep aware of, and there's so many things I've learned in this of things that you've got to keep aware of. But at the end of the day, it's business 101. The more times that your business can be seen, the more times that people can buy from you. Doesn't matter. You can substitute that for Airbnb, substitute it for any business that has ever been created in the world. The more times that your business is being seen, the more likelihood that people will do business with you. So thank you very much for that, Bart. Let me just see. If there's any final questions, you've got a chance for 2 good ones. I'm going to let you to put it in the Zoom chat. Only the people in the Zoom, because we've got people asking questions on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Which was amazing. But Zoom, if you've got any final questions, this is your chance to do it. And I saw one from Matt, and he put it in capital letters to get my attention. He knows how to get my attention if you put things in capital letters. So pricing. Here's a question about pricing. Do you include cleaning or not include cleaning, and also discounting for direct booking? So how do you sort of work around that, seeing that one of the indicators that Airbnb goes on is pricing? How are you sort of judging clean and seeing that they're making all of these changes behind the scenes?
So let me just rephrase the question so I'm 100% sure I understand it. So when Airbnb incorporates pricing in, their output, which is search results, the question is, do they include cleaning or don't they? Is that the question?
I think so. Again, it was like the actual question itself is maximum 10 words. So Matt put pricing in like capital letters, including cleaning or not including cleaning. And then it was discounting for direct bookings. So I guess we can just assume what the question is and go from there.
Okay. Airbnb looks at the total price, yes. So they look at what's your average price actually of the last 30 days, and this will fuel your rankings. If you, for example, have an average price of the last 30 days of 200 euros or dollars, and today you have 150, that's actually positive, because Airbnb will highlight, okay, this property is this property, there is something. This is lower than normal, so they will give you a boost. But they look at the overall price, especially now with their new update.
Here's a question. Are you obviously aware of what's happening with Airbnb? Hotels are going to be coming up on the search in Q4 in the winter update. Obviously, you have come from the Booking.com world, which is more hotels, which is obviously Otamiser. This is what you do. How are you taking what Airbnb are doing potentially with search, bringing in hotel rooms into Airbnb? Like, what's your take on it from like your personal opinion on how you see and what you see Airbnb doing in Q4 or Q1 of 2026?
It will be interesting because Airbnb's algorithm is all about binary inventory, booked or not booked. Well, whereas hotel rooms they are not binary. They have multi occupancy, which will be interesting because if you get one booking, okay, you can get another. So if you have a good ranking or a good positioning, you will stay there, which is kind of unfair because you will be able to get more clicks, more reviews, and so on. So I'm curious how Airbnb will tackle this. What I can share with you is how Booking.com tackled this. So Booking.com, was all about pursuing Airbnb stock. They wanted to get the short-term rentals, but issue they faced was those short-term rentals they couldn't compete with hotels in the search rankings because those hotels had way more prices they sent to Booking. They had way more rate plans. They had way more pictures. They had way more rooms, way more reviews, yada, yada, yada. So what they did is they applied something which is called a short-term rental boost. So when you go to Booking.com, you could see hotels and short-term rentals, mixed in each other, which also created like the situation where you had some apartments who got booked and then vanished from the rankings and so on. So my 2 cents is that they will look at how Booking.com did it and try to do it better.
It's everything that is happening this year on Airbnb with all of the policy changes and now the fees making it really simple where by the end of this year everybody will just be paying a flat rate of 15.5%. I feel like now when we look back at the end of this year, it's super obvious why they did this because they want to really put themselves as an OTA. They really want to put themselves alongside Booking.com and they really, really, really want to eat into this hotel inventory and without absolutely destroying its original business model that made them so popular in the first place. So it's fascinating to see from all angles of what they do Airbnb, because obviously, and the reason why we talk about them is because they are the biggest, right? As biggest short-term rental provider that is out there, they do a lot and they are affecting a lot of people. So really interesting. But
Exactly.
any final words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with today? That domain is autorank.com. You go there, you can reach out to Bart on LinkedIn and all the good things. But any final words of wisdom you'd like to share?
Don't underestimate distribution. Pricing, it's a trending topic. Dynamic pricing, revenue management. Everyone is talking about it, and it's getting adopted. We see more Google searches to Price Labs and Wheelhouse than it is to any other PMS. But don't forget distribution because you can have the perfect price if your listing is unbookable or not to be seen. You're still nowhere. So don't forget distribution. The same analogy goes with direct bookings for you, Mark, as well, or for all the Boostly audience. You can have a perfect price, but if your direct booking engine just doesn't exist or is not optimized, you're still nowhere.
I feel like my main takeaways from today is you cannot just set and forget your listing on these OTAs. You need to have at least one different variation of your listing per season. So spring, summer, winter, autumn. And that's an easy one that you can go and do. Yes, you may have to splurge a little bit more on photo shoots, but it'll be worth it in the long run. B, you can't just have the same title, the same description, the same copy. You've got to amend it and adjust it according to suit. And the last one is go and open that calendar up as far as you possibly can into the future and take advantage of those orphan days. Like those seem to be just a gold mine of extra money that you can have out there. And obviously it'll make you more visible as well. So there's lots to get started with. Obviously, this is all being powered in the back end by AI and algorithms that are way more clever than we will ever be. But I wanted to bring Bart in because he's somebody that I've chatted to a lot over the last year, 18 months, and he's impressed every single time. And I wanted to let him loose on the Boostly audience which I feel like you've just absolutely hit a home run. And only 25 as well. Like last time we did one of these boot camps, we had Haley Marie Anderson coming from the States, 22, 23-year-old, who's absolutely killing it over there. You've come in here, and the youth, this Gen Z, man, they're powering the future of this industry, which is awesome to see. So Bart, thank you so much. We've got lots of lovely comments in the Zoom. For everybody that's with us, really good session today. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. I'm going to be walking you through exactly how to set up ChatGPT to run your business and your life in the best way possible. So where there's no annoying emojis and no annoying M dashes, but you can still really make it work for you. We'll be back tomorrow at 6. Bart, thank you again. I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for tuning in.